Hey, what's up YouTube? Here's another video by Ratchets and Wrenches, and today we're working on this 2003 Chrysler PT Cruiser. This car, it's got a bit of a transmission oil leak, and so we're gonna get underneath there and try to see where our leak is coming from and go about repairing it. I have a good feeling it's gonna be the oil pan, the transmission oil pan gasket. So, but we gotta double check everything and make sure that's where our leak is. Okay, and something to make a note of here. This car has also a transmission code with P0944. It's a loss of hydraulic pump prime. Now, I don't have a good manual for this. I usually use all data, but for some reason all data doesn't cover PT Cruisers. And but from what I can gather online, this could be as a result of either low transmission fluid or the transmission filter being clogged up. So, why would your transmission filter get clogged up? Well, if you have a failing transmission, there's the particles coming off different parts inside there to clog it up, or I guess it could clog up over time, or and then that when it clogs up, it keeps the pump from priming properly. Also, low transmission fluid can also make that happen. But since we're having a leak, our transmission fluid looks okay, and actually I checked the transmission level. It's not below the minimum, but it's right above, just about the minimum. So you might be driving at an incline or going downhill or uphill, and this code could set. The level and the transmission fluid could just dip below the minimum, and you get this code. So pretty confident our problem is either clogged. It's actually probably just low fluid, because the transmission fluid looks good. But if we're going to open up since we got a leak and we're going to open up the transmission oil pan, we're going to replace the pan gasket and the transmission filter, then fluid. Okay, so next step is going to be to apply our emergency parking brakes and place the front of the car on jack stands. Okay, so with our car on jack stands, we're going to take a dive underneath the vehicle, and as you can see, here's our leak. This car has been sitting here for maybe in a couple, 5-6 hours, and it's leaked that much. So it's a fairly good sized leak we got here, and that leak is right below our transmission oil pan. And I don't know if you guys, there we go. It's all oily down here, pretty bad. And also all grimy and dirty all around, because when you get a leak in front of the car, just the air, it's gonna, as you're driving, just the wind and the air is just gonna push it back, and it's gonna stick to everything behind it, and then dirt and grime will stick to that, and it'll look as messy as this. Okay, so, but on a brighter note, this transmission, it's pretty easily accessible, and not a whole lot of bolts that are holding it in. It's fairly small. One thing that I noticed is that this bolt, someone has cross-threaded this in and just left it halfway out. So that's the first bolt we're going to try to take out. And yeah, because I think we can just cut it if it doesn't come out, but it should come out. But yeah, I guess when I go back in, I guess this video would be, maybe I'll make a video, or I might include on this video, on how to use a helicoil on damaged threads like that, so we can get a new bolt in there. But that's not what's causing a leak anyway. It's mainly from around the back, this area. Or maybe it's just all over. I can't tell. But yeah, next step is going to be to drain our oil and our transmission oil. Then we'll start removing the bolts and taking out the pan. Okay, next we're going to take off this bolt. It requires a 13mm. And that thing is on there way too loose. Also, don't forget to obviously put your catch pad underneath here. There we go. Okay, with it pretty much all drained out, I'm just gonna put this back in there so it won't leak all over my my arm while I'm trying to get all the oil pan bolts off. Okay, just gotta hand tighten for now. Okay, so now we're gonna start taking these bolts out. We're gonna start with this one that's all crooked in there. And actually, the threads on this might be okay. It might just be the RTV silicone that was in the way. Maybe if we clean it up, it'll go back in straight. Actually, I'm gonna try to see if I can put it in straight. Yeah, I don't think there's any. Yeah, I think we're good. I don't think we need to do any thread repair. Yeah, now basically we just go around the circumference and start removing these bolts. Okay. You know, actually, I just thought of something. This oil pan is not gonna come flying out when you take all of the bolts out. It's gonna still stick to the bottom of the transmission, but we're gonna have to pry it out. And it's, you know, once you start prying it out, if there's no bolts in, it's just gonna, that's when it's gonna come flying out and it's gonna send transmission fluid everywhere. So I'm actually gonna just thread back in 2 bolts that are right across from each other. But, you know, just throw them in a couple of turns, you know. So when we go to pry them out and it you know, detaches from the transmission, it just rests on these bolts. And then we can safely take it off without worrying about transmission fluid flying everywhere, okay? Okay, now the bolts on this side, and this is the one I'm not gonna completely take out. I'm just gonna, you know, take out, leave some, you know, just leave in a couple threads in. So once we take out the transmission, the pan, it rests on this and the one that's across this one, okay? Okay, last but not least, these 2 in the back. Something else you want to pay attention to is when taking out these bolts. Sometimes on some cars, some of these bolts are different sizes, so you want to make sure that each one you take out, you know, if it's a different size, you mark it and know where it goes. But on this car, they've all been the same size, okay? Okay, and we're starting to get a leak out of one of the bolt holes, so good time to put our catch band underneath there again, if we've moved it. Okay, you know what? I stand corrected. Your transmission oil pan could come flying out. You know, I thought there is silicone here, but I guess it's between the transmission pan and the gasket, and from between the gasket and the transmission there's no silicone, so that's why it's, as you can see, this thing is pretty loose. So good thing we had these, we put these things in here, so there won't be any prying necessary. So now we're just gonna remove these 2 and take out our transmission oil pan. But you wanna keep in mind there's still transmission fluid in this, so, you know, take it out with that in mind. Have your catch band ready, and there we go. You guys probably not seeing it, but there was a bunch of transmission fluid that just came out. Alright, okay, and here's a look at our valve body, and as you may have noticed, there's something missing. The transmission oil filter came out with the oil pan, this guy right here. And if you look closely, you can tell actually that this pin that goes, there's 2 pins here that hold this into the valve body. This one's been broken. I think what happened, this happened during installation, and we just didn't do that because, I mean, these are not easy to break, and I didn't feel anything catching, and it looks like they pushed it in wrong at an angle, and then they broke off this, they pushed this part in. So this could be another reason why we were getting that code. You know, this was just, it might have been connected with this pin just here, and then eventually it came off, or it was at an angle. But yeah, it could be another reason we're getting that code. But anyway, we're gonna get a different one of these, and so we're just gonna take that, put that aside. And but what I noticed was that there is actually RTV silicone all around the circumference, so we need to thoroughly clean that. Otherwise, when we go to put it back together, go to use put in our new RTV silicone, we're not gonna get a good seal. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do next. Okay, and here's a look at our oil pan, by the way. And there's our magnet, and we got some material on here, but it's very tiny. It's fairly consistent with what you would expect whenever you open up a transmission, or just these tiny particles. They come probably usually just, I'm assuming clutch material. So, but it's nothing, you can't really feel it under your fingers. And also the rest of the pan looks clean. There's no big particles, big chunks. Transmission shifted smooth anyway, so those are all good signs. And then transmission fluid is really clean. So, but yeah, before we go to put this back on there, we need to get this gasket off here, like this. Then toss that. Obviously clean all the inside of it, and also get all the RTV silicone off of here. Okay, next we're gonna start cleaning off the transmission side of this RTV silicone stuff, and this is gonna be probably just time consuming, probably in our shortcuts, but just a razor blade, maybe some brake clean, and a lot of patience. You should be able to do it probably in half an hour or so. Yeah, I mean, if you want to cut down on your cleaning time, maybe you can grab the bigger chunks with your fingers, with your fingernails, and just pull them out. Not a whole lot of big chunks on this side, but yeah, you can do that always to try to cut down on your cleaning time. Okay, besides that, you want to get a razor blade and lay it flat against the surface and just start slowly scraping the stuff off. Don't dig in too deep, because this is made out of aluminum. It's a softer metal, and you don't want to really scratch it up bad or score it, So yeah, take your time, go around the circumference and get it all nice and smooth. Okay, so just spent about half an hour cleaning this mating surface, and it came out pretty good. You can still see some residue from the old stuff, but it's smooth, so as long as it's smooth to the touch, you're good. There's no big chunks in there you left in there. You got all that big chunks out, and you can get this stuff out too, but you would have to really dig into them. And I'd rather not do that. You try to, because if you're running your razor blade flat on the surface and you're cleaning it up, and this stuff is below the razor blade, that means they're inside of a groove, and in order to get that out, you need to dig in there, and then you probably just create a bigger groove. But as long as they feel smooth to the touch, you're good. So yeah, just gonna leave it at that, and then go clean our oil pan.